Hey there, tech fans. Rick here again with another review, and today I have the Oukitel P2001 portable power station. This product is an absolute beast of portable power technology that provides 2,000 watts of external energy that you can use to charge and operate all of your thirsty portable devices when you're away from home. In addition to the large capacity the product provides, it also offers every possible connection you'll need to connect your gear for charging and operation. As a matter of fact, you can operate 16 devices on this product at the same time. So you can turn on a light, you can plug in a portable cooler, you can charge your drone batteries, you can operate a power saw all at the same time off this unit. So it's pretty incredible in that respect. Now, before I get too deep into the review, I want to talk a little bit about portable power stations in general because in my mind, there's really three classes of portable power stations that are based largely on their capacity. The smaller ones that are under 1,000 watts, and those are great for an afternoon out with family and friends to charge all of your devices when you're in the field. And they're portable, they're small, they're easy to bring along, but their capacities are somewhat limited, maybe 300 watts or 1,000 watts. The midsection is somewhere between 1,000 watts and maybe 5,000 watts, and those are larger. You don't bring them along as much because they're a little bit heavier, but they're perfect for a camping trip where it's a couple of days, or maybe you're on a road trip and you need extra power in the back of the car to charge a bunch of things, and you want to bring them into a camping site where there's no electricity. And then there's the 5,000 and larger, and I consider those to be sort of home generators where you keep them plugged in all the time, and if you lose power, they immediately kick in and provide power for a portion of your home so your lights don't go out during a storm. This one is in that middle category. It's 2,000 watts, but what's interesting about it is Oukitel has built in some really advanced features you normally only find on those larger home generators into this particular product, and I'll get into that in a minute, and that's why I'm so excited about it. But before I get too deep into the review, I always like to start with an unboxing just to show you everything that's included with the product so you understand exactly what you're going to get if you buy it, and then I'll actually go through the specifications and do a brief overview to point out some of the cool features that Oukitel has built into the P2001 because there's a lot of advanced functionality in here in the way you get energy into the battery, the way the battery stores that energy, and probably more importantly, how that energy is delivered to external devices when you're charging or operating them. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And then I'll come back at the end and actually point out a few things that separate this from a lot of other portable power stations on the market because this particular segment has been flooded by manufacturers lately. There are a lot of companies that are building portable power stations, and it's important to understand what separates one from another, and I'll go through that at the end. But again, let me get started with the unboxing. So when you first open up the box, you'll find the P2001. You'll also find 3 charging cables, which is really unique. A lot of the portable power stations in the market may give you an AC cord where you can charge it at home, but you want to be able to charge it when you're out in the field as well. So what Oukitel has done is built in an AC cord for home, so you plug this into the unit directly. There's no external brick. It also includes a DC cord for your car. So it's got a standard cigarette lighter on this end and a DC connection on this end. And then third, they include a connection for solar panels, which is really important because if you're camping, you may want to take one of those foldable collapsible solar panels with you, set it up outside the tent, drink in that sunlight, and turn that into energy you can actually charge the unit with. So really nice that they've included everything you need. They also gave you a full instruction manual that explains everything you could possibly ever want to know about this product, how to charge it, how to save it, protect it, and don't damage the batteries, and all the cautionary things you need to understand about the product. Now, in addition to that, the one thing I like a lot about the charging, and a lot of companies have started to do this lately, and these guys definitely have the same technology or similar technology, is in days gone by when you had a portable power station like this, you would have to charge it with DC current. So we've got 2 DC cords right here, one from your car, 12 volts, and one from a solar panel. But the AC portion of it, it really didn't have the ability to charge the batteries directly from the unit. So what you would find with most of the portable power stations is you get this external brick that would convert the wall current, the 120 volts, 60 hertz, down to 12 volts at a high current, and then pass that 12 volts or 24 volts into the unit to charge it. And it worked okay. It gave the voltage they needed at a DC current level. The challenge is those external bricks were not really efficient, and they tended to fail a lot because you're drawing a lot of current through them. So you might get a year or two out of them. And if that charging brick goes bad, now you're stuck because you've got a portable power station you can't really charge without it. And you've got to go find one on the market. They tend to be expensive and they're very specialized. So you've got to match up the connections and all the rest of it. What Oukitel has done here is actually built that conversion circuit from the AC to the DC that charges the batteries into the unit. And that does 2 things. It eliminates that external brick and all the headaches associated with that. But the other thing it does is really increase the efficiency of that conversion from AC to DC, which means this unit can fully charge in 2 hours, which is pretty incredible. So you take it home, plug it into a wall outlet, you're up and running in 2 hours. And to me, that's really important because there's a lot of capacity in the unit. I don't want to spend a half a day, 5-6 hours charging this before I go out and have a little bit of fun in the afternoon. So for me, 2 hours of full charge is great. It'll take a little bit longer in your car because the car can't deliver the kind of current you can deliver at home. It takes a little longer with the solar panels, again, because it really depends on how much sunlight you've got and how they're facing it, and late afternoon sun's not as good as full day sun. So I like these options as alternatives, but what I typically do is charge the unit before I leave the house. And if we're going camping, I'll get 2 days out of it easy, maybe 4 days out of it easy, just connecting a bunch of different things up to it. So a lot of ways you can charge it, and I think that's, kudos on the company to include those, because a lot of other companies may give you this and charge you 20 bucks a piece for these 2 cables. It's all included. One other clever thing they did, which again I think is a nice touch, you can tell our engineers have spent a lot of time designing this, is you'll have the portable power station and have these. Now other companies give you a bag to hang on to them in, and that's okay. This one actually has a little spot in the top. There's a little cavity there where all these charging cables fit right in the top of it. So you can charge it, throw the cables in it, and take it with you. And if you go to a hotel and you want to recharge it, or a campsite where you've got AC, you've got all the cables with you. There's nothing worse than having this on a road trip where you're a couple of 100 miles away from home and you want to recharge it and you don't have the AC cord with you, or you're missing the DC cord. So I love the fact that I can pack them in up top. Another key consideration here, in addition to the way you charge those batteries, is the way the batteries actually retain that power. Now, some of the technologies out there rely on what's called lithium polymer or LiPo batteries, and they're okay. The challenge with LiPo batteries is they're not very tolerant for hot and cold conditions. So if it gets really cold, they don't hold the charge real well. You can't really charge them in cold weather. You can't charge them in hot weather. There's always a danger of combustion with those batteries. The technology has improved considerably since then. So these are using iron phosphate batteries, which is one of the latest technologies. Very stable technology, a lot of charge cycles, up to 3,500 charge cycles, where you deplete them, charge them up, deplete them, charge them up, which means you're going to get a lot of years of use out of this product. So they've really thought through that aspect of it. Another thing that's really important is the third way to charge it, through a solar panel. Unlike a DC charge from your car that's 12 volts, typically at 10 amps, which is a consistent delivery of that power, with solar panels, it's going to be waxing and waning all day. It's going to be high at one point when the sun is really bright and hitting those panels. It's going to be less charging current when they're not hitting the panels. The voltage can vary an awful lot. And the challenge is those solar panels have to be smart. It's called an MPPT circuit, that are either in the solar panels or they're in the charging unit. With this one, that MPPT circuit is built in. So what that circuit's doing is looking at the DC current coming into the unit, and it's sort of evening it out, if you will, or at least accommodating what the current is to charge those batteries efficiently. And that's all done through the battery management system, where it's looking at the current and looking at the batteries and saying, okay, I can contour this, or I can groom this current to efficiently charge those batteries, where I'm going to get the most bang for the buck out of that sunlight. Because the last thing you want is to be wasting sunlight that could be turned into energy. So they've built in the MPPT inside the unit. So all those advanced features are things that you don't normally find in a portable power station in this category. So good on Oukitel for building all those in. All right, in addition to that, now that we've got this giant battery and we know how we can charge it, and the charge is inside those iron phosphate batteries, more importantly, how do I get it out of those batteries? How do I charge and operate external devices safely and efficiently? Well, Oukitel has built in, like I'd mentioned, every possible connector you could ever need on this unit to charge everything externally. More importantly, they built smart into those connections, because it's easy to look at just the number of connections a device has, but you also want to look at what flavor or what type of connection is it. So for example, a USB-A connection, which is what you'll typically find on a standard USB charger at home that you use to charge your tablet or your phone, is a full-size USB-A. Well, that charger can have a different current, and it can have a different profile, meaning it can be a straight 5 volts at 2 amps or 2.5 amps, or it can be a QC or quick charging port. Well, on this unit, on the front, they built in 4 full-size USB-A ports, and I'll show you a close-up of these in a little bit. 2 of those are standard 5-volt 2.4 amps, which is the highest amount of current you can get out of a charger. So they've given you the maximum charging current out of these 2. These 2 will give you the same current, but they're also quick charge enabled, which means if you have a device that can recognize the QC standard, the port will handshake with that device and realize individually how much current and voltage it needs to efficiently charge those batteries safely, and it makes an adjustment or an accommodation in the current and voltage it's sending to that device on an instantaneous basis to deliver the right amount of current and charge to that device to charge it quickly. So these 2 are QC. To the right of those are two PD ports. Now these are USB-C. That's the latest style of connection that you'll find on most chargers out there in the field. And a lot of the newer devices, drone batteries, larger tablets, laptops, a lot of portable gaming systems use a USB-C connection. But a standard USB-C connection just delivers a USB voltage at a standard current. These are PD, which is power delivery. And that's sort of like a QC standard, but it's a different type of standard. And if the device uses power delivery charging, that's a quick charging technology, which does the same thing as the QC ports, but for a PD device, like an Android product, some of the game systems, a lot of the drone batteries and controllers charge through a PD connection. So it's PD capable, which means it's aware of the PD standard. So if you plug anything into it, it'll charge it just fine. But if you plug something in that's PD capable, it magically turns on the PD functionality and starts adjusting for whatever current and voltage is out there. The last thing that's really important about these USB-C ports is the current they can provide or the energy they can provide. Most of the USB-C ports on other devices, maybe a 30-watt port. If you're lucky, it's a 60-watt port. Most laptops, game systems, and drone batteries require a minimum of 65 watts. Here you have two USB-Cs that are 100 watts each. That's absolutely incredible. Independently, I can charge a laptop and really thirsty big drone batteries, each from one of those ports. So I think that's pretty incredible. That's the USB portion of it. And again, you can turn just this circuit on by hitting that button below it. Over here, you have a standard DC output, and you've got a full-size 12-volt connector just like in your car. So anything you charge in your car, you can plug in there. You'll get 10 amps at 12 volts out of that. Next to that, you've got an XT60 connector. If you're flying any kind of FPV drones and a lot of other technology, likes that XT60 connector, so you can plug in there. That's a unique portion of this unit. You won't find that in a lot of other portable power stations. Below that are two 5521 barrel connections. Now, a lot of people ask, well, what am I going to use those for? I don't have anything that connects to that. There are cables out there that'll connect from that to a device, but then you've got a very interesting specialty cable that you've got to use. But there are other cables that are converted to things that you're used to, like another port for your car. So if I plug one of these into the 5521, boom, I've got another 12-volt outlet that I can use. These 5521s only deliver 3 amps worth of current, but that's still plenty because you have 10 amps coming out of here and 3 amps out of each of those 5521s. So for me, I have a lot of car chargers that I use for my drones and some other technology I bring along. I can plug one in here, I can plug one in here and one into the second one. So I carry two of these connection cables with me to enable me to connect in other car capable devices. So that's the DC portion of it. Now you're wondering about the AC portion of it, because if you're running any kind of wall charger, any kind of appliance like a TV, a blender, a light, whatever you want to bring along with you, you need AC ports to plug that in. And again, you can turn this on using this button. So that's a nice feature I probably should have spent some time on, is when you turn the unit on, none of the circuits are active, and that's important because you're not draining energy from the batteries. But if you're going to use the USB connections, hit this button, it'll turn just the USB portion on. This will turn on the DC portion. On the side, you have 6 full-size grounded outlets for AC. And these, again, will deliver 2,000 watts of energy. So you can plug a light into one, you can plug a power saw into another one. If you've got a portable fridge that has an AC cord on it, you can plug it in there. Anything you want to charge, you can plug into the side of this. You have a circuit breaker on the top of it as well here that you can reset. On the other side, sorry. Here's the circuit breaker. If something happens where you get a short circuit, it's going to pop that breaker. Wait a few minutes for a cool down, hit that breaker, and it'll actually reset. But I love the fact that there are 6 outlets. And a lot of other portable power stations, the outlets are kind of, you're trading things. They're not really a full-size outlet. These are full-size grounded outlets. Now, this is above ground, but you need to have that third plug for that grounded plug on the cords. And each of these work well. And you can turn it on right there. So that's your charging, or your AC, I should say. On the other end is where you actually charge the unit. So when you flip this door open, you'll find 2 connectors. Like I'd mentioned, the full-sized AC connector right there that you use with the AC cord, and there's a DC connector right there. That's the same connector for both of these plugs. So if you're going to charge it in the car, you plug it in there, plug it into your car, and you're good to go. This one will charge it from a solar panel. So every way you've got to connect to it, you've got a lot of options there. And then the last thing I'll talk about is the display, because what this company has done is built in a very sophisticated display right here on the top. There's also a cooling fan inside. I didn't mention that a minute ago, but when it first turns on, it turns on the cooling fan. If you start drawing a lot of current from it, it will turn on the cooling fan to keep everything quiet, especially if you're using the AC side of it, because you're going to tend to draw more current out of the AC outlets than you will the others. Oh, the other thing I didn't mention, which is really important, is the AC output on this is a pure sine wave output. And that's super important because a lot of other portable power stations use what's called a modified sine wave, which is kind of a sine wave, but it's more of a square wave. And I know I'm getting nerdy here, but that's important because a lot of the electronics is looking for that smooth sine wave at 60 hertz. And if the power supplies in there and the other units compromise on that, they can damage the sensitive electronics. This one's a pure sine wave for all 6 of those outlets. All right, back to the display. The display gives you all the information you need to understand exactly what's going on with the unit, and I'll show you a closer look at that in a minute. But essentially what it gives you is the power that's still in the unit. You can see the charging levels. There's a bar, a circle bar on the outside of it that'll show you in a graphical form how much power is still left in it. It gives you input current, letting you know how you're charging it, and output current, letting you know how you're draining power out of it to charge all your portable devices. It also has indicators for the circuits that are active at that given moment. So with me, I only turn the circuits on as I need them. If I'm not charging anything from AC, I don't turn it on. If I'm not using the DC, I leave that off. But it's nice because you have complete control over what's going on. One last thing I want to tell you about this unit, which I think again is a feature you normally only find in the larger portable power stations, is the ability to use this as a pass-through device. And what I mean by that is you can plug it in and use it at home or in your car if you plug it in with the 12 volts as sort of a conversion device that'll take the AC from the wall outlet and convert it to all kinds of chargers for you at home. So you don't have to worry about having 15 different USB chargers in the den. You can plug this thing in and charge everything to your heart's content off it because you can charge it while you're draining power externally from it. It also provides emergency power. So if you've got a universal power solution, or UPS is used, where this sits between the wall out and your computer, so you can actually plug this into the wall, plug your computer into it, and let it run. That way it'll be charged all the time. If you lose power in the house, it immediately switches over to battery power in 10 milliseconds, which is incredibly fast. So you're not going to have to reboot your computer and worry about, oh man, did I lose files? Did I crash my hard drive? So it can be used as a UPS in the house as well. The other cool thing, like I mentioned, is I love plugging it in to charge it. And then if I've got devices that I have to charge that I want to take with me, like drone batteries or controllers or tablets or whatever, I can charge them from this while I'm charging it in my living room. So it gives me external charging capabilities as well as internal charging capabilities at the same time. So a lot of cool features built in. One last thing I do want to mention is a lot of these units, and I don't know why they do this, this is a pretty heavy unit. It's about 48 pounds, which sounds heavy, but there's a lot of tech in there. And like I said, it's not something you bring along for a hike, but it's perfect thrown in the back of your car on a long trip or if you're going to do camping. But a lot of the companies that build these units that are 50 pounds and heavier, they put a handle on the top of it. And I think to myself, I got to lift 50 pounds with one hand. That's not going to work. That's a two-hander at best. Well, these guys thought of that, and they've got two handles on either side. So it's like the perfect position, and they're recessed as well. Perfect position to pick it up and hoist it up in the back of your car or pull it out of your car and put it in your tent. So they thought about that an awful lot. I love the flat surface on the top. A lot of them have kind of a creative curved surface. What good is that to me? A flat surface like this allows me to put my tablet down there, put my phone down there, and not have it sit on the ground. So I really think they've thought of everything. It's a wonderful unit, really well built. And again, I think it's a tremendous value for the money. So if you stay tuned next, what I'll do is take a closer look at the unit and explain all the connections again, the indicators, the knobs, and everything else that you'll need to know about it. And then I'll come back at the end because I feel like there are features in this unit that you won't find in other units. And there's a lot of marketing out there to sort of confuse you, I think, about what the product can do. Not this product, but other products. So I'd like to draw some comparisons between exactly what you get with the Oukitel P2001 versus what you may get with other units. And I think that's really important in your buying decision. So stay tuned for the closer look next. Then I'll come back at the end and go through some of the features that I think really separate it from the competition in this market. Now I'll take a closer look at the Oukitel P2001 portable power station, and I'll start with the charging connections. On the left-hand side on the bottom, you'll find a little door. When you pop that open, you'll find two ports inside, an AC charging port and a DC charging port. The AC charging port is used at home to charge the device, and you can use the included cable. You'll plug one end in here, the other end into any standard wall outlet to charge the unit. That'll take about 2 hours to fully charge the unit, which is pretty incredible when you consider it's a 2,000 watt product. To the right of that is a DC charging port, and that's used with the included car cable and solar panel cable. You'll plug it into your car, or you'll connect up a solar panel to either of those cables, and then you'll plug it in here, and that'll allow you to charge it through DC power. Make sure you close this door and snap it closed when you're not using it, and that keeps dirt and debris from getting inside. Above that is a circuit breaker. If you draw too much current out of the unit at any given time, you may pop that breaker. And if that happens, unplug everything, let it sit for a couple of minutes to cool down, then reset the breaker. But just make sure when you start connecting things up again that you don't exceed the 2,000 watts. You'll also find cooling fans inside right here that may turn on when you're charging it, especially if you're charging it through AC. That's normal. That'll actually come on to cool the electronics inside to keep them at a comfortable temperature. They may also turn on if you're drawing a lot of current out of the AC circuit on the other side. On the front of the units where you'll make most of your DC connections, and I'll start with the 12 volt circuit right here. Basically, you have 4 connections you can make that deliver a pure 12 volts out, 12 volts DC. You have a full-size port right here, just like in your car. So anything you plug in your car, you can plug in there and you can charge it just fine. To the right of that is an XT60 connector. That's a fairly specialized connector, but there are devices out there that will connect to an XT60 and charge perfectly. This is 12 volt, 12 volt. Both of these are 10 amp. Below that are 5521 ports, and these are fairly specialized, but they're really common, and you can find cables out there that will convert the 5521 to a lot of different charging options for external devices. You also have the option of using a standard adapter to convert this to a car port. So you can plug one in here and effectively triple the number of car ports you have available. The only difference is these are 12 volts 10 amp, these are 12 volts 3 amps, so the current's a little lower here, but it can still support a lot of external charging that you would normally plug into your car. To turn this circuit on, you'll tap that button. The LEDs let you know these circuits are now active. My recommendation is don't turn a circuit on if you're not using it. So right now nothing's plugged in. Turn it off because even though nothing's drawing current out of it, it's still draining power from the battery. In the center are where you'll make your USB connections, and there are 6 possible connections there. To turn it on, you'll tap that button. You'll see the indicator come on, letting you know these ports are now active. On the left-hand side are 2 full-sized USB-A ports. Each of these can deliver 5 volts at 2.4 amps, which is the highest amount of current you can get out of a standard USB charger. So anything you plug in at home, you can plug in here and charge to your heart's content. To the right of that are 2 more full-size USB-A ports, but they're specialized ports that are QC or quick charge enabled. What that means is the port can recognize an external device that has QC capabilities, and it will adjust the voltage and current to that device to charge it safely and efficiently. These operate independently, so you can plug one QC device in here and a second device in there, and they'll both adjust independently. You can also plug normal devices in here as well, but you'll only get 5 volts at 2.4 amps out of these to a normal charging device. To the right of that are USB-C connections, and again, these are specialized connections that are PD capable, which is power delivery. It's another version of quick charging. A lot of the modern Android products, laptops, drone batteries use the PD standard, so you can connect those up to these ports, and again, they'll handshake with that device, determine what voltage and current they send to it to charge it safely and quickly. The big difference is these are 100 watts each, and that's very unusual because most USB-C ports on portable power stations, maybe 30 watts or 60 watts. The fact that these are 100 watts each means you can charge really big devices like your laptop, drone batteries, large portable devices, so that's really a benefit. And again, these are all active at the same time. To turn it off, you'll tap that button. To the right of that is a light. It's really handy to have on a product like this. You can tap it once the light comes on. It's really nice to have that if you have to look at something in the dark. If you tap it again, it goes into SOS mode to let people know you're in distress. Tap it again, it goes into emergency mode. And that's great if you're broken down by the side of the road and you need some way to let other drivers know you're over there. Just pop this out in the back of your car and turn that on. They'll definitely see it. The main power button is right here, so if you hold that for a couple of seconds, it'll turn on. If you hold it a couple of seconds, it'll turn off, and that shuts off all the circuits at the same time. The display is beautiful. It's a bright, big display. You can see this from across the campsite very easily. In the center, you've got the charge level, 32% at this point. Outside of that, you got a bit of a horseshoe. That's a graphical representation of how much charge is left. Right now, I've got about a third of it there, which is exactly what we're looking at. I like the fact that I have a numerical as well as a graphical display. I can glance at it really quickly and know that I'm getting about less than half of the charge still in the unit. To the left of that is a really useful indicator that may be a little bit confusing at first. What that's telling you is you have 89 hours or 82 hours left with all the devices that are connected with the amount of current that's still left in the battery. Now, nothing's connected at this point. That's why it's flipping around between those two numbers. But if I plug something into it, it'll tell me exactly how many hours I can charge or operate that device on the power that's left in the battery. And the reason that's important is because you're going to plug a lot of things in. When you get down to 10 or 15 hours, you might say to yourself, well, you know what? I don't need to charge those drone batteries, or I don't need to plug in that TV because I want to conserve the energy that's left. So I like that an awful lot. To the right are your input and output power. It's measured in watts. When you're charging it, you'll see the number go up. You'll know how much energy you're putting in, and you'll also see how much energy you're draining. The reason that's important is because you can use this as what I like to call the Swiss Army knife of chargers at home. You can plug this into a wall outlet, and all these outlets become active. So you can charge 6 USB devices. You can charge things you'd normally charge in your car while you're charging the internal batteries, as long as your output wattage doesn't exceed your input wattage, because then you're draining power from the battery. But I like looking at that. And for me, I charge a lot of stuff at home. So while I'm charging this, I'll plug my drone controller in here, my camera batteries in there, my tablet, my phone, my portable controller, whatever I'm bringing with me, I can charge it while I'm charging the internal battery. So it really amplifies my ability to charge at home. And then finally on the right-hand side is where your AC outputs are. So there are 6 full-sized AC outlets right there. They're 3-prong grounded. So anything you plug into a home outlet, you can plug in there. You have to keep it under 2,000 watts for combined output, but that's a lot of connections where you can plug in a fan, a light, a TV, who knows, whatever you want to plug in there, maybe an external charger for your drone batteries. All those are active at the same time, and you can turn those on by tapping that button. Again, 2 more cooling fans above it. It'll pull air across the top of the electronics to keep them nice and cool. One other feature I wanted to mention was this little door on the top. I think that's a nice touch. This door up here pops open, and there's plenty of storage space in there for all the cables you'll need to charge the unit. A lot of other products give you a bag or something to take those along with you. I like the fact that I've got room in there where I can keep them in there, and when I head out for a day of fun, they're in there with me. And if I need to recharge it from the car or a solar panel, I never have to worry that I didn't bring the cables along. So, and that's pretty much it. I did mention the handles before. I like the fact that there are 2 handles because a single handle in the center makes no sense to me with something that weighs about 48 pounds. I like having 2 handles so I can pick it up, put it in the back of the car, pull it out of the car, move it into the tent, whatever I need to do. I've got 2 heavy-duty handles, which by the way are recessed as well, so they're below the actual edge. So very well built and a very competent product. Now I'll point out a few things to keep in mind when you're comparing the Oukitel P2001 to other portable power stations you may be considering. And I'll break this into 3 different sections: the charging cycle, the battery technology and the protections around that, and the discharging cycle. In other words, how do I use the energy stored in the unit to safely and quickly charge all my really expensive portable devices? So let's start off with the charging cycle. To use the unit, you've got to charge it up, and you'll typically do that at home, and most companies include either an AC cord or an external charging brick that you'll plug in at home, plug it into the unit, charge it up, and take it with you for an afternoon of fun. They may not provide the option to charge it through DC, or if they do, they may not include the cables. What Oukitel has done is included all 3 cables you'll need to charge this pretty much in any circumstance. A heavy-duty AC cord you can use at home, and that's the way you'll probably charge it most often. They also include a DC cord for your car that plugs into any standard DC outlet in the car. This plugs into the side of the unit and you can charge it from your car. They also include an MC4 cable that you can use with pretty much any solar panel to charge it when you're out there camping by just setting up a solar panel, plugging it into the DC port of the unit, and charging the unit from nothing more than sunlight. So I like the fact that all those are included, because if they're not included, you got to go hunting for cables and spending extra money. So all 3 are included. In addition to that, they've built in advanced circuitry because they've eliminated the external power brick that most companies provide, and they've made it extremely efficient to plug it directly into the wall, and the circuitry that converts the AC from your house into DC to charge the batteries is internal, and it's extremely efficient. So it allows this unit to get fully charged in 2 hours, which is absolutely incredible when you consider 2,000 watts of energy inside the unit. So AC is the most efficient. The DC works pretty well in your car. It'll take a lot longer to charge it there, and depending on how much sunlight you have, it could take a lot longer there. But I love the fact that I can be completely off-grid camping, set up a solar panel, and recharge the unit, and then use that to charge all my other devices. So the charging on this is incredibly efficient. One other thing they did, I almost forgot to mention, is with solar charging, the voltage on solar panels will vary quite a bit, and the current will vary quite a bit depending on how much sunlight is hitting the solar panel at that given moment. It'll spike, it'll drop, it'll spike, it'll drop. So it's dangerous if you don't have a sort of a circuit that'll actually control how that voltage and current is being delivered to the batteries, and normally that's an external device called an MPPT circuit. What Oukitel did was build that into the unit, so you can plug the solar panels directly into the unit. The internal circuitry will groom that energy coming from the solar panels and sort of even it out to charge those batteries safely and efficiently. So they built in fast charging for AC, MPPT for the DC on the solar panels. All right, the battery technology itself is another important consideration, because a lot of portable power stations out there use standard LiPo batteries, which is lithium polymer, and those work okay, but they're not as efficient, they're not as resilient, so if you can't really use them in cold or hot temperatures, and they're also a little bit less stable, so there is always the chance that there'll be some problems with internal combustion if those batteries are abused. This product uses an iron phosphate battery, which is a newer version of internal lithium batteries that really has a better charging cycle retention. It'll hold the charge longer, you can charge it more often. So with the iron phosphate batteries, you can go 3,500 charge cycles on them, which, to be honest with you, you're going to replace the unit long before those batteries give out. The other thing is there's a battery management system built into the unit that's watching every activity of the electrons going into the battery and coming out of the battery charger devices. So it's monitoring the inrush current when you're charging the batteries. It's making sure the batteries are being charged correctly. It's checking things like overcurrent, over voltage, over temperature. If there's any kind of condition that could cause some serious issues, it'll actually take charge and either shut down the unit, stop the charging, pop the circuit breaker. So that battery management system not only protects the batteries internally that are being charged, but more importantly, all the external devices, which are way more expensive than this unit, that you're charging from the unit. Now, the third thing you want to consider is how do you use the energy that's been put into the unit? So you've charged it at home, you're out there in the field. Do you have the right number of connections? Are they smart enough to charge the devices you brought along? And are there enough of them to charge all the devices you want to charge? Well, again, this is where the P2001 excels. There are 16 different styles of connections on here that you can actually expand beyond that, but 16 of them that you can natively plug in different devices. You've got two full-size DC connections here, one that's a standard connector for your car, and then you've got the one next to it, which is an XT60. You've got two 5521 ports down here, and like I'd mentioned before, you can find an adapter very easily on the web that plugs into the 5521 right there and converts it to another port just like in your car. So you've got multiple connections there for DC at 12 volts. This one up top here, the port is 10 amps at 12 volts, which is a lot of current for a 12 volt connection. Both of these are 3 amps on the bottom. In addition to that, you have a wide range of USB connections in the middle. So you have two full-size USB-A connections. Each of those are 5 volts at 2.4 amps, which is the highest current you can get off of a USB charger at home. So anything you plug into your charger at home, you can easily plug in those two outside USB-A connections. In the middle are two more full-size USB-A connections, and those are quick charge capable connections. So if you've got a device that'll quick charge over a USB-A connection, plug them in there, and what that quick charging circuitry is going to do is look at the device and adjust the voltage and current to give you a fast, safe, efficient charge to that device. To the right of that are two USB-C connections that are also PD or power delivery capable. It's another form of quick charging. It'll look at the device if it's PD capable and make the adjustments for current and voltage for that device. The big difference though is these are 100 watts each, which is incredible. If you look at most portable power stations on the market, you'll get a 30 watt charge from those, or you'll get a 60 watt if you're lucky. 100 watts is almost unheard of, which means you can directly charge a laptop, large drone batteries, gaming consoles, a lot of other devices that require more than 60 watts of charging current through a PD connection, and you've got two of them on here. You've got a nice light on the front where you can turn that on if you need additional lighting. I'll turn this on real quick. But if you turn the light on, it's got a couple of different modes. I can turn it on where it's on. I can turn it into an SOS mode if I'm in trouble, or I can turn it on a flashing mode if I've got a breakdown next to the road with my car. I can put it into my car and flash and let people know I'm pulled over on the side of the road. So the light's really handy. The AC portion of it is pretty impressive as well. There are 6 full-size grounded outlets right here. Now again, it's above ground. There's no physical ground, but the fact that it's got the third hole for that grounding plug on your cord means you can use anything with a 3-prong cord on it and plug it in directly there. You're not sharing anything. You've got 6 individual circuits right there. And again, you can turn on the AC, the USB, and the DC all on their own with different individual circuits. And finally, the charging ports are on this side, and you've got a choice between AC with the internal conversion, or you've got a DC port that works with both the car and the solar panel. The reason all of those things are important is because with a lot of other portable power stations, you'll find the manufacturers have to make some compromises in either the number of ports or the style of ports or the intelligence in those ports. And if you buy something that looks similar and you don't check things like finding out if it's a QC port or if it's a PD port or if it can charge at 100 watts, you're really buying a power station that's somewhat limited, and you'll find that a lot of the technology you bring along that you want to charge off of it, you can't actually charge it. So with the Oukitel P2001, they've really thought about everything you'll need out there in the field. They built a beautiful unit that's about 50 pounds, so it's a little bit heavy, but it's perfect for a long couple of days out in the field if you're camping or on a road trip or you've got an RV. It's really the unit to use if you need a lot of power over, say, a week's worth of time. You've got more than enough energy inside here to operate and charge all of your portable devices. So I like the unit an awful lot. I've tested it for the last couple of weeks. I've used it on a lot of different trips out in the field, and it just works really well. So thanks an awful lot for watching. I hope you got the information you need. I do have links below to show you where you can get this on Amazon. If you want to go check it out there, you can look at the full specifications. If you use those links, we get a little bit of credit if you buy it through those links. So we'd appreciate that because you're supporting the channel. I have a wide range of other reviews that I'll be doing this week on portable power stations, other portable gear, a ton of drone stuff coming. I can't really talk much about, but there's a lot of cool stuff coming. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, hit that subscribe button down there. What are you waiting for? You definitely want to get in on some of these reviews. So that's all I had for today. I hope you found this helpful, and until the next time, stay nerdy.